As an employee, the words performance review will probably get your heart racing. This process can feel so daunting and might feel quite nerve-wracking. You might also have had some bad experiences with your performance review, and so you might feel quite nervous when the invite for your next or for your current mid-year review pops up in your calendar. As an employee, there's some really great things that you can do to prepare to feel more confident going into your performance review and make sure that this process is a success for you. So I got you covered, and in this video I will share with you more details around what is a mid-year review, why is it so important, and how you can prepare specifically for your mid-year performance review. And at the end I'm going to share with you a cool bonus tip that will help you to feel more confident in your mid-year performance reviews, so make sure that you stick to the end. This video is specifically for you as an employee. Whether you are a leader or not, you will be part of your own performance review with your manager. If you want to know how to prepare for mid-year performance reviews as a manager for your team, then make sure you check out this video. So what is a mid-year performance review? Most organizations have a performance review process that kind of goes like this. You have a meeting to talk about goals and expectations at the start of the year. Then in the middle of the year, you meet for a mid-year performance review. And then you have the end of year review towards the end of the year or at the start of January. These should be one-on-one conversations between you and your manager to understand goals and then realign on the progress, expectations, and feedback conversations. There's a bit of a difference between a mid-year review and an end-of-year performance review. Whilst the end-of-year review obviously is looking at the whole performance of the whole year, and there will be a metric around your performance, and often this is linked to a compensation process in your company. So it might be used to determine whether you get a bonus or whether you get an increase in your salary. The mid-year review is more of a check-in. So it's a bit less formal, and it's maybe therefore a little bit less daunting because you know it's not yet tied to these monetary or career components. Whilst there might be a bit more relaxed in your company, make sure that you actually do use these to your advantage because they can be make or break of your success and your performance for this year. They're a great check-in point to see how you're progressing towards your goals, whether you need any more support, any more resources, or a bit of a change in direction. And there also can be a good realignment with regards to the company goals and priorities, because often throughout the year, the organizational goals and priorities might change due to the market, due to a project that they win or didn't win. And so there can sometimes be a bit of a change, and it's important that this is cascaded down to your goals as well, so that you're not working towards something that's not important anymore or not achievable because it's out of scope for the organization. These reviews are very important because it's at least one way to make sure that you can sit with your manager one-to-one. Ideally, you have a manager that is invested in your relationship and your performance, and you catch up for one-on-one meetings regularly. But sometimes that's not the case, and at least if your organization has a formal performance review plan, at least there are 2 to 3 meetings that are set in stone, that are set in place, that need to happen for you to interact and reflect on performance and what you need. Let's now look at 7 steps you can take to prepare for your mid-year performance review. Step number 1 is to review your goals and KPIs. You want to start to look at your goals in more detail that were defined at the start of the year, and then reflect on your progress towards these goals. What were your key achievements? Which goals did you already achieve, and how far have you come? You want to make sure you have the examples ready of things you did and how you got there, and where possible, have your KPIs ready as well. Not every goal will have easy accessible KPIs, but hopefully you've defined KPIs with your manager and can pull them out in order to support your review. Your manager will most likely do the same, but it's really important that you already prepare it as well, so you know what you're going to talk about and you are well equipped and feel more comfortable bringing it up. Some of your goals might be quite big and broad, and of course might not be achieved yet at the mid-year point. Yeah, maybe you have a goal defined that will take 12 months to achieve. So it can be quite difficult to maybe highlight achievements or highlight your performance with regards to the goal. So here, it's really beneficial for you to start to think about all the little things you did in order to get closer to the goal. So what are, for example, regular tasks that you've done on a weekly basis to make sure that you can realize the progress towards the goal. This becomes especially important if you are dependent, or if the success for this goal is dependent on another department to do something for you, and maybe they are stuck and so you're a little bit behind. So it becomes really important that you can highlight what you're doing and that you are still proactive and that you're not just waiting passively for things to happen. So for example, let's say that you and your team have not achieved a certain goal or have not progressed towards the goal as was required. And this is because you were waiting for a software improvement by another department in your organization. So on the one hand, you are kind of stuck because you're waiting for them, and you could easily say, throw up your hands and say, well, nothing I can do about it because we're waiting for them. But you want to show what are all the things that you've been doing to make sure that this relationship, this progress is being made. So have you been sending regular updates via email? Have you been managing or contributing to a checkup meeting every week or a status meeting? Have you been highlighting priorities? Have you been highlighting consequences regularly, or spoken to the people in the other team to really come up with solutions and maybe break down the priorities in a certain way? And another thing that you could do and highlight is, have you thought about alternatives? So whilst you're waiting for this software improvement to really achieve your goal, are there alternatives that bring you a little bit closer? Alternative ways that you can do in the meantime to help your team or yourself achieve parts of your goal at least. So you want to highlight all of the things that you've been doing regularly to work towards the progress within your circle of control and influence. Step number 2 is you want to think and reflect on additional tasks that you've been taking over that were maybe not part of your performance management plan. Maybe you've taken over a new project that came up. Maybe you've been onboarding new team members. Maybe you've stepped in for someone during their sick or annual leave. What are some additional projects or tasks that you've taken on board? Make sure that you document these as well. Step number 3 is to reflect on your strength and tie these to your achievements. You want to feel confident in your mid-year performance review, and you want to show that you know your strengths and superpowers and how they contribute to your goal and the team's goal and the organizational goals. Prepare some examples of where your strengths have supported you in being successful in achieving a new goal. Step number 4 is to reflect on the leadership competencies or organizational values that might also be highlighted in your performance management plan. So often performance management plans have the goals and targets for an employee, but they might also show that you should comply to the 4 or 5 company values, or you should show these 4 key leadership competencies in the organization. These things are often not measurable by KPIs. So here you want to really become clear and reflect on examples that you can pull out to show that you are actually possessing these competencies or working towards the values. So here are some examples. Let's say your company has a value of courage. You can ask yourself, when did you speak up about toxic behavior or about someone overstepping boundaries? Or maybe somebody not adhering to company protocol. If your organizational value is inclusion, reflect on and ask yourself, when did you make sure that you bring someone else in the group or made somebody else being heard in a meeting, for example? Where did you invite someone to become part of a team or make sure that they are included in team lunch events or drinks or something like that? Or if the company value is, or a leadership core principle is strategic thinking, then you can think about examples where you have been able to think ahead, think about different alternatives, and really think forwardly, and maybe think 3 steps ahead to address concerns proactively. Step number 5 is to reflect on your areas for improvement. So whilst you want to make sure that you, of course, highlight all your amazing achievements, you also want to show that you're self-aware and self-reflective and that you see the areas for improvement that you have. So reflect on whether there are targets that you haven't achieved and why, and start to think about what was getting in your way. Was there any blind spots that you need to work on, any misunderstandings that you've had, or certain things where you missed the mark, and what could you do differently next time? Do you think there is a realignment of goals needed because maybe there is some misunderstandings or it's not aligned with organizational goals? What challenges do you foresee in the next 6 months? Where do you need more support, whether it's resources or time or training and development? and actively think about your weaknesses and blind spots and start to think about examples and strategies of what you can do going forward to manage these more effectively. Step number 6 is to reflect on your development needs. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? This is also your chance to ask for that again. Maybe you've talked about it at the start of the year and it didn't happen. It happens quite often, right? That priorities change. Maybe bring it up again. Why do you want that training? Why is this important for you? What is something that you would love for your development? Would you like to be part of a certain project or team meetings to start to be around certain topics and learn and get the exposure? So think about what is it that you want and why, and make sure that you bring that up as well. And step number 7 is to think about feedback you want to share with your manager. What is it that you want them to start, stop, or continue doing? What do you need more or less of? Do you need more support, more one-on-one time, more guidance? What do you need from them? More backup in certain situations. What is helpful for you? What are examples of behaviors that were really helpful and examples that were not so helpful? Make sure you prepare that and get really clear on that as well. And step number 8 is that you want to prepare some questions. What are things that you need to know or are wondering about, or clarification that you might need? You can ask things like, what are your main priorities in the next 6 months? Are my goals still aligned with that? Are my goals still aligned with the organizational priorities and goals? What would you like me to start, stop, continue doing? Where do you see my strength in actions? Which strengths do you see the most? And how could I use this more? Or from your perspective, am I still on track for my career and developmental goals? These are just some examples of questions that you might want to ask to get more insights from your manager, but also more support. And here's my little bonus tip for you at the end. It's so hard to every half a year think about our achievements and goals and really remember all the amazing things that we've done. So my top tip here for you is to collect all your achievements on a ta-da list. A list just for you to highlight everything that you've done. Situations where you stepped outside your comfort zone, had a difficult situation, achieved a goal, approached someone, a stakeholder, and had a really powerful conversation to clarify goals and expectations or clarify boundaries. What are your achievements throughout the year? And then when you sit in your mid-year review or your end-year review, you can actually look back on these achievements and bring them up to back yourself up and really show that you have what it takes and that you have done a great performance and that you can feel confident about it. You want to go into these conversations feeling as confident as you can and open for suggestions of improvement. You don't want to be scared of it. You want to feel good about your performance. But of course, we all have weaknesses. We all have areas for improvement. But the more confident we feel going into it, the easier it is for us to stay open-minded when we receive feedback. I hope you found these tips helpful. And if you have any more questions, let me know. And if you would like to get some more advice around receiving negative feedback and how to prepare yourself best for that, then make sure you watch this video next.